Okay. Every time it's just as exciting to see if it's working or not. Apparently it is. But before the stream starts, YouTube goes through its like normal lag, which for me is about 30 seconds, I think. It's quite long, 15 seconds at least. So when I press start the stream, it just shows complete blackness to me, and so there's always a moment of like, what is happening? I'm gonna look for a brush. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I thought that it would be fun to do something less detailed and more just fun. I think I've been taking some of these live streams a bit too seriously, and that's not good for me if I wanna keep doing this, so keep them fun. So I took out my Iceland palette. I'm not yet sure if I'm gonna use this. At least I'm gonna maybe try it as a starting point. I love this palette. I have done probably like 5 different paintings with the exact same palette already. But at least the stream seems to be working now. I had some technical difficulties before, but that made it like even more difficult because I said on Instagram that I'm gonna do a live stream. And now that I have like a deadline, so that at this point in time I'm supposed to hit record, of course that brought all the tension of like getting the technical stuff working. In due time. Hello from me and my toddler. We love your paintings and videos. Oh, thank you. There's also a toddler here. I don't know if she will want to be in the stream, but if you hear some screaming soon, then you know that the queen of the house is not being treated to the way she deserves, and it requires attention. So if it gets really bad, I will just mute my own microphone until she calms down. But it would be fun to show her if she comes here. There's a door stopper in this room that she can chew on. Turn down the background noise. I can try. Just a second. And if there are any audio difficulties, I would appreciate if you let me know, because last time the audio was really bad, but I don't hear myself when I'm speaking. I have turned that off from my headphones because it would be too distracting to hear myself speak. Is that better? Please let me know. Arneri is confused about color profiles, RGB and SMYK. So the reason why the print profile is important, because like some people work only for print, and it's not that easy that you should always work for print, because you can't get the same colors out of like all different color profiles for all different purposes. So most of my art is for web, and when I do a print version, then I convert the color profile to SMYK if I'm doing the printing myself. But if the printing is done by some different company, you always have to kind of like check how they do their process. Like, for example, now that my prints are available on InPrint, I just changed the shop recently, and InPrint gives me a better cut than the previous shop, which was just like robbery if you ask me. So when I upload my prints there, they are in RGB format because they do the converting. But for print, I still do color adjustments, and whenever you are adjusting your pictures for print, it usually comes out, not usually, but it always comes out a little bit darker than normal. If you buy a normal, even like a high-end printer, you will see that they have recommendations even on the paper that like you should adjust your saturation down 5% or bump up your brightness by 10%. Those are pretty common values for printer. But because those sort of adjustments, like I understand why printer companies do this, because those instructions are pretty easy to follow for anybody who is not a graphics artist. If you're just like printing photographs or something for your family with your printer, then it's understandable. By the way, I'm getting nothing done here. But if you're an artist and you are producing art prints, then I think it makes sense that you are adjusting the colors where there is the biggest difference in like what the print looks like and what the on-screen version looks like. So I adjust the lowest values like right before black to be a little higher, but I leave my highlights into that like range that they were before, so I don't bump up everything to be brighter, because then I would like blow out my highlights, if that makes sense. I was wondering if you have some specific inspiration. Everything is inspiring to me. By the way, this is Mikko Roll brush from my brush set. But if you don't have my brush set, you don't need to buy my brush set. You can just use Nikkoral. I think it's quite close, but I have a bit more pressure opacity, because I think with Nikkoral I had constantly the problem of the texture not being quite what I want to use, and then I want to be able to color pick like this, like half tones, even though I have like full opacity always on. I'm gonna just put this in a really small stamp thing, because it's already hard enough for me to focus here, so I'm gonna need to have a very small scale to see what I'm doing. It can, about that RGB and SMYK, I'm trying to follow the chat, it's going by really quickly. The difference can be pretty drastic when you change your color profile from RGB to SMYK, so don't be scared. That just means that you really do need to adjust it. And some colors are just not good for print. When I was studying print technology, I think the best rule of thumb is to remember that that kind of like orange peel orange, that like bright, super saturated orange that you see on an orange peel, that you can't get with SMYK colors. So if you are designing for print and your whole design is based on like orange, go and pick a print-friendly orange. Like you can usually see what oranges are possible for print. So don't design your whole, like if you have a graphic illustration especially, don't design the whole illustration based on a color that is impossible to print. So go to print safe colors and use those. I need to try to get more work done. So you won't end up just watching me scribble nothing for the whole duration of this. Probably more fun for everybody that I get something done. I'm gonna try to figure out a silhouette for this thing. Blob. I was thinking of doing a pixel art piece for this again, but the style was so different that I wasn't sure that I would have time in a live stream. I just need to do more pixel art to just have a better handle on the time it takes to do something, so that I can plan for a live stream. It's walking. I know that art looks like really weird in this space always. But I think the good benefit out of these live streams is that I think a lot of people get inspired when they see, like, for example, a painting video or something, and then they start painting, and then 3 hours later they are nowhere, and that's normal, but they were just like expecting more out of it. So I hope that these live streams can make people more understanding of just like how much patience one needs for painting. Thanks, Procreate XD. How should I use reference as a beginner? Like professional artists use reference. However, it benefits your art. So I recommend taking your own reference pictures whenever possible. I understand that like not always you have the option of like going everywhere and seeing everything that you want to paint. But for example, whenever I am running outside and I see a horse, I always take pictures of horses, because you never know when you want to use it as a reference. It doesn't even matter if it's a bad picture. I can still use it as a reference, for example, for proportions and for that, even like a normal cell phone camera is like just good enough. Actually, I think it like motivates me that the reference picture, if it's taken on a cell phone, I know that the quality is like not quite as great as, for example, on my more expensive camera, the Canon one. Because then I can improve upon that image by painting it or giving it something else. But I see not just like repeating the exact same thing for many things, like especially if it's like a whole painting. To me it's kind of boring, and not a super great way to learn, except if you're like learning something like very specific, like how to paint hand in this gesture. Like then just take a picture. You have hands, then like feel free to copy it as one-to-one as you possibly can. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. If a client asks you to do a painting that involves having a hand in the picture, do you think that they will care if you used your own hand as a like reference for it? No. They would rather have like a accurately drawn hand than a bad hand. And I'm saying this because I'm terrible at drawing hands. I just don't find it that fun. Okay. Get back to this blow. Oh. Maybe another blob. I'm just gonna try it. Maybe. I do not understand why is he angry though. Many reasons. Somebody said on YouTube comments that like I should be more happy in my videos. I guess he was meaning especially in my voiceovers, and I didn't answer this because a commenter wouldn't get humor in text form, but I'm Finnish, we don't do emotions. I mean visible emotions. Also, we're kind of like allergic to this sort of American peppiness. I don't know, at least I am. Especially if a gym group session instructor is like super cheery, that always, it's like, I find it creepy. But I guess this is YouTube, so everybody's doing that stuff, so it's expected. But it's fine. I guess those people will just not subscribe to me. And when you make anything, you have to be okay with the fact that you are not for everybody. And it's fine. They will find somebody else that is more fitting for them. like this track. It's a completely random playlist, by the way, so if there's something terrible, I can switch it. But I didn't have time to create hours-long playlist. Those take so much time. Usually, when I'm just like working on paintings throughout the week, I try to gather playlists, but it's surprising when you like produce more than one video in a week, just like how much music you just go through. But if you're wondering why so many YouTubers use the same tracks, I think that's the reason. It's just a lot of work. Keep finding different ones. There should be like rolling hills in the foreground. No, I'm not going to use the dark theme. What is your view on planning paintings? Depends on what type of a painting it is. Sometimes, for example, right now I'm doing a piece for a client, and the planning has taken a really long time to be on the same page with the client. But I think in that sort of scenario, I think it's really important so that I don't end up working on something for a long time and then still get the same amount of payment when it's not what the client expects. So there the planning is super important, but depends on the client. Some clients are like pretty okay with giving me creative freedom, and like those are the clients that I usually want to take. I mean, of course, money is important, but like those are all equally important things. Because I don't have time to do all the commissions anyway, so then it just comes down to who can pay me the most money and what projects seem like something that I could actually give most value to. Or if it's something that I feel like some other artist would just be a better fit for it, then I will refer them to those. But if somebody just like starts to haggle about the price, I don't refer those clients to my friends because I don't want them to deal with that stuff. I don't want to. Expose my friends to those situations either. For how long have you had your iPad? This one? I don't remember when I got this. When the buttonless iPads came, I didn't upgrade because I heard that the new one is just mostly refurbished version. So I think this year there's going to be a bigger upgrade for the hardware. I don't know if I will be able to afford it right now. Because I'm focusing on working for myself, I need to be mindful with the money and how I spend it. Because this YouTube channel already costs me several €100 a month. Your work makes me, and I'm sure a lot of people, so very happy. Thank you. That makes me really happy to hear. And it's nice to have this channel, not just to have like as a way to engage with like potential clients, but just to have my work seen. That's a huge deal. I've worked for like so many big clients in my life, and I remember when I was younger I was excited that like the work is going to have so much visibility when this and that company has commissioned me to do a piece. But honestly, the bigger the company, the more likely it is that you will not be even mentioned by name. Even if your work gets seen, it's something that the company wants you to pay, and nobody knows that you made it in most cases. I think Mikko role is great for doodling anything, and I especially like the fact that if you like scale it all the way up, it's quite big, so it's great for blocking in. What goes through your brain that you create such masterpiece? For these blobs? I would call it a masterpiece. I don't know, it's just like creating brush strokes in patterns, and I try to find places where it's not just enjoyable to paint, but enjoyable to watch. And there are like many aspects to that, but mostly it's just looking at the whole composition and thinking that where do I want people to be looking at? And it's the composition, like the checklist that I have taught to my students on concept art classes. It's not something that I just teach to students, it's something that I use for all of my paintings. And it's quite like a complex set, but it's not something that I feel like I need to evolve or change. Also, it makes it much easier to evaluate student work when I do feedback sessions, because I don't have to think that am I being unfair, or is it about a style that I like or I don't like, because I know that the students think about these things, that like it is done in a style that Mikko likes, because the work, you can, like, if you put it into the rule set, you can see if it works or not, regardless of what the message is and regardless of what the style is. And with that checklist, if the students learn it, they will be able to like design logos, and they will be have the basics of typography as well. And the more you do it, the more you will learn that like everything visual follows the same rules. And then I think the funny part is that once you start doing, for example, album covers for musicians and bands, and you talk about music with them, then you realize that like they have almost the exact same rule set. It's just the artist work in X and Y space ratio on canvas, and the musician works with the time of the song, the loudness and silence, in the exact same way. And it's funny how you can talk about two different things, music and art, and it seems like the rules are the exact same. Working on an oil painting while following the stream. It's nice. I think it's going to be a while before I can even use the oils again, because the whole room would have to be booked for them. Because Vivi would surely eat paints that he shouldn't be eating. I wonder where she is. I don't hear her at all. That's not usually a good sign. When she's quiet, she's usually doing something really bad out of sight, like chewing on a power cord. For me, I think people kind of categorize, and I understand it, but I think this is something that I should be probably like make a video on, when people try to like guess what my influences are, but like I think they pretty much always guess them wrong. When it comes to like fantasy art, like my biggest source of influences are 90s video games. And at the end of the 90s, like especially PlayStation 1 era, everything that Squaresoft made, and I didn't have a PlayStation, but I just loved all the artwork in those games and concept art, and I think that's the reason why I became a concept artist. So animation movies weren't a big thing to me. But when I was that age, like I did see like one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is Ghost in the Shell. And still is. I think especially lately, I can now see that that sort of style that I was like aspiring to be able to do someday, I can now see it in my work. Because when I was doing actual concept art, it wasn't anything like the type of art that I wanted to make when I was younger. But like now, for example, if you look at Garden in the Sky, I think some people have commented that it looks like a Ghibli movie, but I can see that it looks like something that could be concept art for a 90s role-playing game from Squaresoft. And I can see that. But those games don't happen anymore. Like even stuff that Square Enix produces now, it just doesn't have that sort of like innocent fantasy that those games used to have. And I think closest to that is the Ghibli movies, which are, I think, in people's like more recent memory. So they make that leap. And I think it's fine. Actually, I don't think it's fine, but it's not for me. That it doesn't annoy me, but I think the way of like categorizing things into like too few boxes, I think it can limit creativity in a very big way. So I'm always kind of like worried that like I hope that they can see past these boxes someday, because like at the same time it's those people who ask me how do I get all of my ideas. For example, for me, I would never say that like something looks like anime to me, because I grew up in an age where I watched Ghost in the Shell and then I read Akira, which I like more as a manga. I'm not a big fan of the movie. But to me, if you say that something looks like anime, like especially back then in the 90s, that sentence wouldn't have and still doesn't mean anything to me. Like, be specific, which one, made by which artist, in which style and mood. Anime isn't a style, it's just like a field of entertainment industry. So I think if people can look past like those sort of like big umbrella terms and get really specific that like this is a horror movie, but it's a horror movie where the psychological terror comes from the fact that like we have detachment issues or something. Like if you can like really hone into like what makes it what it is, and why, for example, Lord of the Rings is a different fantasy film than, for example, Harry Potter. If you can like see those differences and understand what makes those differences happen and how they affect the viewers subconsciously, then you can like really like empower your creativity in a different way, because you can see the nuances of different things. I know that this is kind of sounding like a rant, but it's not me that I'm worried about when people categorize my art. It's like the people who are usually artists that like, please, I hope that you don't limit your own art in this way, because there's so much more categories if you are just like willing to open your eyes to see them. End of rant. Several questions. Is recording the screen better than filming your desk with the camera? I think for my ergonomy it's definitely better, because I had to have the camera on here and I had to constantly be aware of it so that I wouldn't bump it with my head, and that's happening every time when I do my normal painting videos on the desk, and sitting in that position for hours and hours, it's not fun and it's not good for my back. Also with this, I can actually see the comments every time I was streaming from the camera itself. I would have to touch the screen, shaking the camera to see the comments, otherwise I would just see the recording. Also, it's a cropped view, so every stream looked like zoomed out more than I intended, because the preview view is cropped in, so it looked like I had like zoomed into the screen, even though I hadn't. I should stop looking at myself in the screen and like focus on this camera. It's distracting. I didn't expect jazz when I started this. I think I'm gonna change this. Sorry, Haranoda. Actually, I probably shouldn't be switching from tabs when I'm in this mode. Oh. you can see comments with your phone watching yourself at mute. That would require for me to have 2 different streams from this house going on at once. So I try to keep it as safe as possible for data usage, so that you guys wouldn't have to suffer through like disconnections. Doesn't Kingdom Hearts have this innocent fantasy though? I would say no. Because all the Kingdom Hearts worlds are worlds from like mostly 90s, early 2000s Disney movies. Only like tiny portions of those games environments happen in like original areas. And those are kind of mimicking Disney movie vibes. Like for example, Traverse Dot Town. I haven't played the 3rd one, just after seeing the reviews, and I don't really understand the plot. Also, they kind of lost me after the 1st one because there weren't any Final Fantasy characters in there the same way, or they didn't have any like purpose in the plot. I really like the different versions of the Final Fantasy characters in the 1st game. I think those were really well designed. Can it get confusing sometimes when one has too many layers while painting? Yes. If you can use one layer, it's great. Mikko have not drawn faces or big human characters. Mikko has. You should just like scroll down, way down in my Instagram feed. Lots of people in there. Hey Phoebe. Draw some pixel art, I dare you. I think I'm going to finish the pixel art piece that I started earlier today, but I won't be doing it as a stream. Too many unknowns, which might lead to it taking a really long time. No, the pixel art thing is free. But I have one disclaimer that I need to say, because I have answered this one question so many damn times that I don't want to do it anymore. Like, even in the comment section, you can see me like answering that same question. People ask me about how to do the scaling of pixel art so that you can keep the sharpness if you want to, for example, do a print. I do explain it in detail, very slowly with examples in that same first video. So just be patient and watch that, because a lot of people have asked that question. I have explained it in text form, but I wouldn't be able to explain it even better now than the video. I spent a lot of time like doing the tutorial for YouTube, so I recommend watching that. I don't know why I like tried explaining it in text form to some people, because the video itself already says this. So from this point onwards, I will just be doing a timestamp reply to that part. This is exactly why I don't think it makes any sense to do like more advanced tutorials that would take like, for example, 5 hours, like a mini course on YouTube. It wouldn't make sense, because you don't have the retention, and also you will end up just like bombarding your own channel with the retention numbers. How long have you been painting? Since I can remember. People who comment in Russian, I'm glad that you're here, but I don't speak Russian, so I have no idea what you're saying. Also, same goes for other languages. I got a really long Spanish comment just yesterday. Somebody had spent a long time writing it. Don't understand a single word of it. I like doing this sort of like line rhythm rows the most. I think it's super fun. But I wanna... The danger with this is that my right-handedness will like make the whole thing slanted, which is fine for this character because it's kind of like moving in a dynamic walking pose. But it's such a big part of the composition that it can derail the whole thing if I'm not careful with it. How am I doing on time? Where was the time? This is cutting off half of the screen. It's saying that the video resolution is not optimal. Again, after I changed it. So I have 1440 times 810 as resolution. I don't know if the limitations that YouTube put in place when this whole situation that I can't say out loud started. I don't know if those limitations are still in effect when it comes to streaming resolutions. Probably just a YouTube thing. there's a whole like list of reasons that I could be angry. I sometimes think about like doing like whole rants about things that I'm angry about, and one of those rants is this product, and specifically when it comes to this product, the charging system for it, because I have gone through enough hardware BS that I have zero patience for it when hardware producers make a custom charging device that you can't use USB-C or just normal mini USB to charge, and they have to reinvent the wheel and make their own way of like charging the device, especially when it's something as fiddly as this thing. And I really want to say the manufacturer's name, but damn, that makes me angry, Mikko. Also, another thing that makes me sometimes like lose my patience, which is terrible, like, because when you're on social media, you should never lose your patience and you should never comment anything negative ever, and you should always just like be quiet when it comes to everything, otherwise like people will cancel you and so on. But I get so many people not requesting but like demanding for like free stuff for everything, and that I do stuff for free for them, and that really seems like disrespectful to me, and sometimes I feel like I could easily lose my patience with that, especially since I have given so much time for this channel, and like on my Instagram channel, like writing so much tutorials, and sometimes given like free brushes on Instagram links and color palettes, and just lots of time writing and making tutorials, and then people treat you that way. It sometimes makes me feel angry. I don't get angry because it would only make it worse, but those situations are bad. And it's not just something that applies to me. I get angry when, for example, I don't go there anymore to read comments that often, but I noticed that like I got really upset sometimes when I go to, for example, and I don't work for them, so as a disclaimer, but when I go to, for example, Procreate's Instagram account, and then I see that like third of the comments are like, when is Procreate going to be free? And it's like a cup of coffee. And having done apps myself and understanding how much workforce they have and how long they have developed the system to expect that they should give it for free, it's just, I don't understand it. Like, props to their Georgie, who is doing a lot of the social media interaction, because like I can't imagine how you just keep your patience in all of those cases. Who is the adorable puppy you have posted on your IG story? I die every time. That is the little toddler that I was speaking about earlier. That is Vivi. That is the queen of the house now. And we love her very much. Especially when she's behaving well. I think she might be napping right now because I would lift her here and show you. But on some live stream, I'm sure that will happen. Not a lot of sleeping for me. They're pretty much the only things. I haven't been working on a new video. I have just been doing this like one freelance client project that I'm working on, and then I have some sponsorship deals which I've been like emailing back and forth, which I'm not sure that I'm going to do on my YouTube channel. and then just napping. Like those are the only things, because the puppy has been keeping me awake since Saturday. So I have also really long naps during days. Whenever she has a nap, then I will have a nap too, because I'm constantly sleep deprived. Lee and Steven says, picked up process again. After 20 years, your videos showed me that Procreate could save me so much time and money while still doing effective studies. Thank you for what you do here. Love from US. And this is also why I love painting on iPad, because I can just paint a few minutes whenever I have the time. And that's why I recommend people who have an iPad that like just take it with you everywhere. And if you can't, have your phone and Procreate there. Like even if you don't have a stylus for it, I use it mostly with my thumb, because this thing is never charged. The battery lasts for like 3 seconds. But those things allow me to paint with actual colors everywhere. If you've seen this painting of 2 foxes that are kind of like blocky looking, called My Foxes Will Look After You. My Foxes Will Look After You. That's the name of the painting. That was done mostly with my thumb in one queue while waiting for my turn, while standing up. I think when I finished that, I was like, wow, I live in the future. I can now paint. I never have to not paint again. I kind of love all of these like different hue variations in this area. I'm just gonna blend these two together, because for me having too many layers is super confusing. Doesn't really help me at all. Makes everything much harder. And just having less layers kind of tells my brain that I can just relax. But when I have too many layers, it just feels super technical and can start to feel like I'm not even painting anymore. I'm just doing some type of advanced graphic design, which is different to painting. Do portrait paintings live stream? No, that would take way too long. The portrait paintings that I did for one of my exhibitions, those portraits were the result of, because they were ink brush paintings. I used traditional ink brush and also this ink brush, which I love. I bought a lot of these from Japan because they were super cheap there, but I have sometimes also ordered them online and it's like 10 times more expensive for one pen. So I just had a huge bag of them and I still have plenty. It's like Sumi-E brushes. So I used those for the portraits, and even like one mistake completely ruins the illustration, and I drew most of them on rice paper. So my process was mostly just like doing it over and over again and like throwing like 30 drawings away until I had a version that I liked. And then they were in composites, so I had several layers of those traditional paintings. So that taught me a lot of patience too. I think if you don't have a certain level of patience, that technique wouldn't be at all doable. Have you ever tried animating something? Yes. I think I'm probably most proud of the animation where the bear is floating. It's a pixel art animation. There's also a video for the process of it. It took a really long time. Oh, by the way, there's this weird thing. I don't know if I can open the settings. I saved the settings. Did it cut the stream? Because there is this setting for the live stream. I've noticed that I have done these live streams now a few times and the chat doesn't save, which I think is super unfortunate. But now I saw the setting and it is turned on, so it should save. I don't know why it hasn't appeared. Because I love reading all of the comments that I missed during the stream. Because I can't read everything, because then you would just be watching me read a column of text, and I don't think that would be very entertaining. Well, maybe you saw the pixel art piece there. Do you teach classes online? I have done that for, what, 3 years now? No, was it? I think 3 years, yes. I've also done a few years of teaching in a classroom. I think that is like always more fun, but like really exhausting. Both are quite exhausting. But I have taught classes online. And I probably will do that on my own. If there's a certain type of a course that you would like me to do, let me know. I was just looking through my stuff that I did last year, and I think the school that I worked for, like, they can't really pay me much money, so kind of made me wonder that is it worth working for that school, or should I just do my own damn class and not have like this third party pilfer away the money. So all of these copy and paste things are just mistakes that I'm making by painting on the wrong layer. So I keep forgetting what I'm supposed to be doing. the eyes of this smaller hill. Smaller. Would you say you're heavily influenced by Ghibli? No. We went through this already earlier in the chat. Love what they do. I think there's one specific artist that I remember seeing do these like ink illustrations that had a lot of this cross-hatching. So I think that partly inspired this style that I'm doing right now, but it's also inspired by one project that I was working on that required these sort of like quilting patterns. Somehow, just through that process, it came to me this sort of like more graphic pattern look. So I think those are like specific influences for this style. And children's storybooks. I would love to do like a children's or a storybook, not really children's, but like storybook, because I feel like I would love to do. There's always a story in most of my illustrations, and I think it would be fun to do a storybook that is not just for kids but also for adults, because I think it's kind of dumb to limit them only to kids. I guess there's a certain type of tone to my images that isn't like really exactly the same tone that is in children's books. My boyfriend said once that like a lot of your pieces are like cute and sad at the same time. I think that's something that adults can relate to, I hope. I know that you talked about it before and it may be a silly question, but can I ask which resolution would you use if you know you want to print your art and hang it on your wall? As big as possible. The answer to this question is always as big as possible. If I can go here and like do 6,000. And it gives me 7 layers available. That's not quite enough for what I want for this. So 550 would maybe be. That's 9 layers. That seems doable. So this would be the maximum resolution. And I'm gonna hit done. Because now I'm at a phase where I have all the main elements blocked in. So that is the maximum resolution for this piece, because I know with how many layers I can get away with doing all these elements. I'm going to need all of them, but if I don't have any leeway, it's going to make like the color edit and adjustments really hard, and I won't be able to do, for example, clipping masks and lighting effects that way. Like this. I think when people ask me this question, they expect that I should answer like a specific number that would be like magic number, but like you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't understand that it's different for every painting. There is no magic number, and you can get the most out of your paintings if you are working for a print, that if you know what your maximum is for every single piece. And there are ways to like even increase the painting in some instances. For example, if you use a round brush, it's very easy to take the piece into Photoshop and then scale it even further, reduce the noise, and then do surface blur or smart blur, because there isn't any texture there. It's not taking away any information, but you can keep the sharpness of the illustration. But for this, because it has this sort of like fine grain to the Microral brush, you wouldn't be able to scale this further, because then you would start losing the texture. I have been designer and creative director for 17 years, but stopped drawing for fun. My first was inspired by your pink challenge, and now I'm practicing my clouds. That's fun. If you're practicing your clouds, go and pick up the free cloud brush that I made. It's free, you don't have to pay anything for it. I can't see this page on YouTube, but there should be a link even in this video description for the Gumroad page. I think it would be fun if there was like a waterfall from this whole cliff. Yeah, I think doing my own storybook would be really nice. By the way, if anybody has like any answers on how to, if there's something that I can do to keep these chats in the stream after the stream is done and uploaded to YouTube. Because I just saw there is this checkbox that is turned on for saving the chat after the live stream is over. But if there is another setting that I have missed, so I tried looking into it and I didn't find anything. But I'm sure some of you are also YouTubers out there. Also, if somebody watches this after the stream is done and has an answer to this, I would appreciate it a lot. Because I love reading all the comments that you guys put there, but if I just read everything, I wouldn't get anything done. I love the kind of broken brownish colors. It's not a super commercial look, but it doesn't have to be. I'm paying for it with my time. May I ask how you created the grain sources for Mikko's RAL? For all of the grain sources, I used Photoshop. Because I wanted to have offset on there. And I don't think I have told this before, but all of the grains in my brush set, they are from nature elements nearby my place and from the trips that I've been on. So for example, there's one from Penang, there's one from Cambodia, from Angkor Wat, and then there is one forest path that is from nearby forest, just places that I liked and I wanted to remember. And instead of like having like souvenir material trinkets with me, I wanted them to be like actually part of my life, so I decided to like have them as my brush grains. So it's not just a brush set, it's also like my travel journal of places that I have been in recently, and I wanted to keep those places with me, so I wanted to incorporate them into my own process. Mikko, does doing the streams help you be accountable? YouTube can be quite stressful because you're always aware of like your numbers. They really push it in your face when you open your control panel. I mean, it's good because that's like stuff that people want to see, and they have done that page through a lot of iteration. But I think I understand why some people, some YouTubers, burn out when they see that stuff every day. And even there's just like one number that I would wish to see more prominently in the YouTube dashboard, and that is timeline of time and then total views or watch time in that timeline, because that would be a number that would always be going up. It would never be going down, and it would always make me feel like I'm actually going forward with this, even if I have a week when I'm not able to produce a video or have less views. It would make me feel less like I'm failing. Just like with running, I love Nike Plus running app, mostly for the reason because when you open it, you will see the total of all of the kilometers that you have run using that app. And even if you go for like 1 kilometer run, that will still like tally up and put that number to go higher. And I think those things are really important to keep the work motivation like high. I don't know, maybe I should do this sort of like chart on my own. But sometimes YouTube can feel like no matter what I do, it's like nothing is working. Sometimes it's just luck. I definitely don't think that like my best videos are my most popular videos. One video that I'm still very proud of, that even though it's quite old and it doesn't have the same sound quality as the new videos have, and I was still suffering from the same like audio sync issues that I wasn't able to fix because I was editing all of my videos on iPad, and after upload, after I hit publish, that caused the audio sync. But the 100th video, I think I feel quite proud that I made that one. Also, the video where I speak about the importance of having a name for your painting, and how it's important. I think that was an important message, even though sometimes people comment on my voiceovers that I sound like I'm crying when I'm actually like not. It's just my normal voice. But that video was tough for me. It was just like all of those incredibly personal paintings that might be like okay for me to paint, but going through all of them in that same like recording session, like I was just completely mentally and emotionally drained after that. And after that video I figured that okay, it's okay if my videos are personal, but there's some limit, because I can't keep doing this to myself every time, otherwise I will just like not be able to handle it. But that was a tough video to record, but I think it was important message. And I do think that every artist should name their own artwork for so many different reasons. And I think it's just as important as like technical practice. When you're practicing your technical art skills, you should also be practicing your emotional courage of what type of ideas are you willing to express in your art. Because you don't just like suddenly jump from 0 to 100. There's like a whole path to travel between those. The screen is getting really hot. I'm gonna decrease the lightness so maybe it doesn't burn badly. Actually, and now I can't see anything. I don't know if this is an eyebrow. It kind of looks like an eyebrow. Just like different heels. Hi, I'm back from your last stream. I always have trouble adding like parts on a wall. How do I give the illusion that there is a bump on a said wall? Paint flat color areas. Don't just fill them, but paint them. Have a hue variation. It's much easier to get away with changing the hue on a flat surface if the value is the same with brush strokes. But if you change the value, it will be much more visible. Changing the hue can make the whole surface seem more vivid. I have to go, but can't wait to see this final painting. I will always post the paintings as soon as I can on Twitter first, because on Instagram there's like a whole upload schedule of different art pieces that go there. So if you want to see the piece relatively soon, I always recommend checking out my Twitter first. Well, I understand that on Instagram it's easier to navigate and see the stuff there. Hey, Hunter of Art. How do you get to do those like cool GIF things? Can you also talk during painting, like what is going in your brain and what you are doing and what to do? Well, sometimes I try, sometimes I fail. Depends on the painting. Usually when I'm trying to kind of like reach a specific deadline, it's much harder to talk while I'm painting, especially if there are like design decisions that I'm making in my head. In those moments it's like really hard to speak at the same time. But when it's more just like filling one area or working on like texture or something, then it's much easier to form sentences, and you have to remember that obviously English is not my second language. But my friends say that also all the time, that when I'm painting it's impossible to talk to me because I might answer, but it's like the answer is just like nonsense because I'm really in the painting world. Right now I'm trying to imagine what it is like on these plains where these rock formations walk around. I kind of like this sort of like moody, dark weather. I think you would probably not see this type of colors a lot in a children's storybook because they tend to be more saturated. I guess I just always like these sort of like foggy weathers. By the way, that is also something that one student assumed one time, that I always like pictures that have fog in them. And I rate them more highly. Not true. There's going to be some green stuff on the smaller rock as well, but I think I'm still not happy with the biggest rock surface. I want to have that figured out first because it's a bigger part of this whole illustration. And there's a lot of like saturation and value contrast in this corner, and since it's in the corner, I don't want eye to be drawn to that area. I usually try to kill the contrast at the edges of the painting, just to tell the eye that like, hey, eyes up here, I guess. Looks like there's a rain here. I could try that. Because this is a new idea that I'm adding to the painting, that's why I'm adding a new layer. Because if this doesn't work out, I can just delete the layer and I don't have to undo to the part where I started doing this idea. So with this, I could kind of like blend the edge of the cloud with the rain. Sometimes when it's half cloudy, you can kind of see that the light is hitting the rain underneath the layer of clouds. So that's what I'm trying to do here. I liked it more with the texture, so I keep that. kind of destroy the edge, the bottom half. Because the palette is called Iceland, I think it's fitting that there are these sort of like low-hanging clouds that there always seems to be in Iceland. Every time I've visited Iceland, it has been. Strataparrot has used this Shiba GIF. I was considering of getting Shiba, but then we ended up with this cardigan Welsh corgi. This black, white, and a little bit of brown spots. I hope we can see her in this live stream, or maybe later. I'm pretty happy with the low contrast of the background. Just need to figure out that main character now because it's the biggest problem. There's a loose brushstroke here on this layer. I could also probably just, I don't know, merge all of these. Try using the curves to see if there's some color information already that I could use. Touch of green. Maybe it could be like blotchy lighting like this. Oh. Can I? Here's the queen. This is Vivi. Up, up, up. Just a second. Get you closer to the camera. And say hi to the microphone. This is Vivi. Okay, we need to put her away now because she's getting impatient. Kiitos. She's amazing. She's like super soft. I don't know if you saw that, but her other ear is starting to like lift up, and soon there will be full party hats, but they're still like flopping. Do you also use other brushes? I used a lot of like the default Procreate process before, but I ended up like always editing the same features, and then I just thought that like, okay, I might as well make my own full brush, and that's the way that like my own brush set formed over a really long period of time. That's why it took me so long to make them. Because I wanted to keep iterating over and over to see if I need to go into the settings and edit the brush. If you've noticed that I usually don't go into the brush settings to edit the brushes in these live streams. Except maybe like minimum scale. If the painting itself requires that, but rarely. Vivi has been really quiet. At least, I don't know if it's just these headphones, but I haven't heard anything. She had a huge hissy fit right before the stream started, and I was like, yes, this is good. She's going to get tired and maybe nap a few hours if she's this impossible right now. But I'm sure that there's going to be a live stream where it's just impossible not to go and stop her from destroying something. She can shoot through pretty much anything. I think that would be fun to have some sort of like different patterns too, but I'm gonna try that waterfall idea since I said it earlier. I just don't want to not do it just because I didn't try. I don't know if it's going to work, but I need to try. Maybe it's kind of like breaking apart as the small mountain rock shape is moving. A lot of the mountains in Iceland are very not steep, but you can walk up on foot without any climbing gear on most of them. So a lot of the waterfalls kind of break apart into small bits. So that's why I wanted to break this too into smaller parts. I think I'm gonna keep it. I think it gives a nice sense of scale. Now I'm gonna try something, so I'm gonna duplicate that whole layer and try to reposition the arms. I want them to be like very long and lanky. See, I'm already running against the layer limitation. So this is the maximum resolution for this specific illustration. I do not see you using texture process. I make my own textures. I think the thing with texture process is that they're always the same in every painting, and maybe this is just me like coming from like oil painting background, like when I see the exact same texture pattern in two different paintings, it's just like, ugh, I really don't like that. Also, the texture is never location specific. You don't ever have the same control over it. Oh my god, the iPad is so hot. Wow. I should remove the back cover because it's preventing the air from getting out. This magnet is really tight. Mikko, what other drawing software do you use or would recommend? That depends on the use. For what purpose? I mean, what are you drawing and who are you doing this drawing for? For yourself or for clients? I mean, how much money are you getting paid? Those are important questions, because like if money is not an issue, then some of these programs that have monthly subscriptions are good options. I would recommend using Quill. That's another piece of drawing software that I really like. I just haven't had the option of using it for a while. So I was switching computers and I haven't installed it yet for this, but I have the controls here. And they have changed the UI where I used it last time, so it's going to be a bit of like learning curve again. But I probably won't be able to use it for some time now, because I wouldn't be able to see what Vivi is doing if I have the Oculus on. Can we see the dog? We already saw the dog. Do you post your playlist anywhere? I recently noticed that one of these streaming services that I am subscribed to, that I use on my channel, the licenses that I pay for, that they have in some streaming services their music. So that way it might be possible to do a playlist to share. It's just so much work, because I would have to sign up for one and then copy all the tracks. I guess that would be doable. But I guess that would be a lot of work for just like one person probably. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. If they make it easy, then I will do one. Or I could do like a music playlist the same way that I did that train ride thing once. And with that too, like even though it's like 40-minute long animation of a train ride, the longest process was getting the track list right and having the playlist there. The thing with YouTube is that like they are really not very supportive of YouTubers trying different formats on their channel. So if you have certain type of videos, you can kind of harm your own channel quite a lot by changing the format or doing something different. And I'm not that established yet that I can afford that as much. I'm just starting with digital art and I'm not yet making any money from the art and get Procreate. Really, there's no more complicated answer than that to give you. Do that. And don't think that other programs that are more expensive are better. What would be your advice for drawing buildings? Reference if you're like struggling with it, like do 30 ink drawings of buildings that you actually like drawing. Then do your own buildings. I'm sure that you will be better at that stuff later. Sorry if anybody is getting nauseous after this spinning, it's just when the angle is certain point, the image rotation kicks in. I didn't know if you might already be listening to a Lofi playlist on some service. Well, there are great Lofi playlists on YouTube. There's one artist that I love a lot, and it's City Girl, and that I can't use on my channel because they don't have licenses of the music for sale, but I love that as painting music. A bit too light. I'm gonna put it on the desk. Please let me know if this is causing terrible noises. Vivi is having a stroke. There's something dramatic happening. Maybe the bottom part could be completely covered in moss, like Icelandic mountains. How did you start as an illustrator? How did you overcome the struggles and anxieties that comes with it? There's a lot of questions. And for the last part, I think with great difficulty, I overcame those difficulties with great difficulty. And it really is the reason why I started this YouTube channel. Because there was a moment in my life where I really needed like help, and there wasn't anybody that was going through the same stuff that I was going through, or like giving me the advice that I would have needed. So when I got better and when I was in a situation where I was able to take care of my own mental health, then I thought that I need to do it. I think that was the reason, that was a bigger reason than being afraid to start a YouTube channel, because it can be quite anxiety inducing alone to just start a YouTube channel, because unlike channels like Facebook or Instagram, this YouTube, they have the dislike. So I think that one button already can make it seem like more scary to start a new channel when you don't have anybody subscribed yet. But I think my reason was big enough to make somebody leaving like hate comments like not as important as the possibility to be able to like maybe help someone. I think it's hard to give advice in art Florentia, I saying, because every artist has their own style, and what might work for Mikko maybe is really different for another artist, but I learn a lot watching Mikko. It was really hard to give advice first, but then when I had kind of like done enough years as an art teacher and kind of like nailed down my process of going through my checklist and teaching the same rules to everybody, it applies to everybody the same way, no matter what the style is. So in that sense, like giving feedback and advice got easier for me, like at least when it comes to the technical part of art and feedback. Yeah, there was something else that I was going to say. No, completely blanked out. Yeah, but it also requires that environment, that I know the people and know what kind of work that they have done before. I don't know if it would be possible to do for an online class if I did one myself, but it would be really nice if it was somehow possible to make people like actually apply for it. Like if the intent is not to just have like maximum amount of students, but like somebody who is actually committed to making art, it should be possible to asked for them to at least like link to a few of their own pieces, and I could be able to give better feedback, because you always have to take into account their previous work and what they have learned in the course thus far. This is the reason why I never ever give feedback to just like random people that DM me that like give feedback to my work, or what do you think of this piece? Like, we're not in that type of a relationship that I would be able to be helpful in that scenario. So I think that would be me stepping over like boundaries. Also, it's also stepping over boundaries for me, because like giving feedback was always the most work intensive part of the art class every single time, and that's something that I'm not willing to do on my free time when I'm just browsing Instagram or interacting with people and talking about art. Somebody was asking earlier that was that your boyfriend who brought the dog to the camera? And yes, it's the process. I'm happy with this like moss base idea. I think it's working. It's fun. The only thing that I should be more worried about is the time, and I'm going to like peek at it now. Oh my god, it's 2 hours. I thought that this is going to be a fast painting. What is happening? I'm gonna still keep painting. I need to work out at some moment too. It's already 6. Dear Lord. It's not great. I have been filling my exercise rings on my Apple Watch for almost 160 days in a row, so it's not negotiable that I skip it one day. I won't skip it, even with the leg injury that I have. I am going to make that happen anyway. Recently bought your brushes, Julian is saying, and they're my new favorites. Thank you. That makes me really happy to hear. But like I mentioned earlier, that was a long process too. Some people have been asking me to like do a tutorial on how to use the brushes in the brush set, and that's one of the reasons why I have always mentioned the brushes that I use in my latest videos and in these live streams, because every brush behaves differently and is good for different things. So that video would be like 20 hours long, so I think it's better to like spread that information out on different videos. Because every brush can be used to do a whole painting. She had a really long nap, Vivi, and therefore she's feeling very energetic now. Also, my boyfriend is working in the other room too. So I guess she demands attention. And she deserves it. I've been reading these like dog training books all day. It's kind of interesting. Last time I had a dog, that was like over 15 years ago. There was way less information on like dog training, so a lot of things have changed. It's interesting to see how these new techniques can actually affect the way the dog behaves. These look like wool pants, this moss area. I'm a tattoo artist from Thailand. Thanks for sharing your work. It's cool. I actually took on a client on Monday that wanted me to design a tattoo. So that's what I'll be doing next week. It's an arm tattoo. It's not my first tattoo, but it's going to be fun to make. And I know a few tattoo artists, so I'm consulting them about the details, because I know that there are line weight rules that I am not the expert of. So I also communicated to the client that like, please give the tattoo artist freedom to interpret my design so that the tattoo can be as clear as possible and communicate the same idea. I think it's important to say out loud so that the tattoo artist can feel like their work is being appreciated and they can feel like free to make small changes to the design to make it work. Hi, you sparked my love for art again and reminded me why I love it. Thank you. Your work is truly inspirational. It feels like terrible to read these comments out loud. I like his little rock body. I'm trying to scan few comments. But if somebody is like spamming one thing, then I try to avoid those. I think the little rock body needs green stuff, and I'm going to make that happen for the rock body. I'm gonna combine these two layers, even though they don't have any connection. So these are the eyes and facial features of the rock formations and the foreground elements. But since those elements are not touching, oh my god, I need to move. Oh. Oof. This chair is painful. since they are not actually connected, it doesn't matter that if they are on the same layer, then I can still use the benefits of them being on separate layer, even though they are grouped together. So that gives me one extra layer to work with. Some of the values are really dark here. I like not being like too precise with these shapes. It looks like a kid's drawing. I think it's just part of why I like doing this style sometimes. Also, I understand that when you tune into these streams, people probably expect me to do one style over the other, but I don't know if there's anything that I can do about that. I mean that if I want to do anything about that, I kind of like doing different styles. It keeps art interesting for me. The unpredictability of it. Also, it's just nice to be a different artist every now and then. Before I started this, I was thinking of like maybe doing one of my black and white Gothic architecture pieces, but just not feeling like in the mood of that artist today. So maybe some other day. Once I was very upset with Procreate because it limited my layers to 8. I don't know why, because you had too high resolution for the version of iPad that you have. My canvas was A3 size. Yeah. And what was your DPI? That also impacts it. Also, don't be mad at Procreate, they would give you any resolution possible if your hardware allowed for it. I'm sure that this is the maximum resolution that is possible without constant crashing. I think this route of doing the same thing is much better than the way, for example, Affinity Designer and Affinity Photo does it, that they don't limit you at all, but in turn the application will just crash whenever there is too much memory being used that it can't handle. I mean your iPad, not the program. Because the application knows what to do with the information that you're giving to it, but the hardware can't follow the command. True. Streaming you to the TV like 2020 Bob Ross. These are happy little trees. Now I'd really like to do a highlight layer, so I'm gonna combine them, do an additive one. Do I still have enough layers to do? No. Maybe I'm going to do this and just see if that merges something that shouldn't be merged. No. if somebody wants a more detailed explanation about like what to do with the resolution, I recommend the video about the glass house. And then the large scale painting video, the one that looks like a turtle that has bare head. The information in both of those videos is what I use for determining what resolution to use, and that is case specific, so that's important. If you're looking for a number as an answer, then you're asking the wrong question. Again, these layers don't actually touch, so I can still keep it editable even though I merged them. Now people are asking really technical questions. Gamma is like adjusting values specifically, like you can control what area of values you want to adjust. That's why it gives you more control than just brightness. I'm gonna pick mid-tone for this, because I'm painting on a layer mask. I'm now only picking the value, not the color. When I want to have more of those like line work showing, then I pick a smaller brush and I keep the opacity constantly at 100%. Because this version of the brush has opacity also controlled with pressure, so I can get those halftone brush strokes when I really need it, but mostly I try to keep it at 100% anyway, so the pressure has to be really light for that pressure to kick in this brush. I think there aren't enough halftones in these trees. Maybe I could do like a small pathway here. Mikko, does the iPad heat up too much where you have to like stop drawing and give it a break? Not always, but maybe because I'm using such a high resolution for this piece, it's quite warm right now. Also, I've been working all day on a commission, like I said, the book cover thing. So this has been in use all day. I want the edges of these green areas to be a bit more graphic, so that's why I picked a smaller brush and I'm just like scribbling lines, not to make it too realistic. Bibi is here in this room, so I have to like watch behind me every now and then because there's an expensive Cintiq drawing tablet behind me and I don't want her to chew the cords because that's the thing that she will do when I'm not watching. Now she's playing with the toy on the floor. She's distractingly beautiful. These details should be kind of like flattened both down. Work on this layer. Can't describe with words how cute it is, but it's happening behind me. So there is this like leather toy dog that I think is a doorstopper, and Vivi is playing with it, and the toy is bigger than Vivi is, and it's really heavy because it's a doorstopper, so she's tugging the dog's ear, trying to maybe move it. But it's a perfect toy because the weight gives it this sort of like resistance that it has to work for anything to happen. But you can see that there's some progress. If it's just static furniture, it's not as fun to play with, but she will like chew through it anyway. I'm constantly trying to like detach her from actual metallic furniture like legs of chairs. There's this, I don't know if you can see the blue light, but the blue light is on the floor and she was going towards it, but I gave her a stern look and then she let it go. What do you recommend for people who can't afford Procreate? Do you mean for PC? Because you probably don't have iPad then if you can't afford Procreate. I can't imagine anybody having iPad and not being able to afford Procreate. I haven't used this Ibis paint. But I don't think applications matter that much. If you just find something that is affordable that you can use, then just use that. I think people are like way overthinking this. You've seen how I have painted this piece. 95% of the time you only need to have a brush, control for size and opacity, and that's it. Pretty much all of those options that you mentioned, they probably do that already. It's just a question of like doing the actual work. I think a lot of time people are just like stuck on this idea that they just haven't found the right program yet, and that is just slowing them down from doing the actual work, painting. If you keep looking for perfect tools, you will never find them, and also you will not have done any art if you commit too much time looking for the perfect tools. Same goes for traditional art. People look for the right pencils and right inks, and inks are inks. Now she's carrying some object that I just hope is safe. any app that you buy should be re-downloadable on any device, because those purchases for any app should be cloud-based, not device-based. At least I haven't lost any applications that way. It might be different if you buy an application that isn't supported anymore, that is so old that it's not supported on a new device, then you might lose that one. I still have one App Store game on my phone as an app icon, and it's from a game that I made the art for, and the game doesn't work, just the icon is there. I just kept it as a memory. I don't know if that's dumb. It was also for PlayStation Vita, so it's that old. By the way, recovering your iPad from backup takes absolutely forever, and only because of Procreate, because there's so much data on your device that like downloading it from the cloud can take days. And you just have to be patient that the system hasn't broken down and it's still happening. But it might seem like it has frozen and you might get impatient, but like don't brick your device. Just think that you don't have an iPad for a few days and just keep it charged. Make a lighter version of this. Bit more of blue. The ground is too warm. I think I might darken it up a bit. Is there anything there? No, there's nothing to lighten up. Check the music quickly. It got really quiet. Thank you for helping me find the true joy in painting. Oh, that's lovely. Love all your work. You don't have to love all my work, but I appreciate it. I like these new greens, so I think I'm gonna do a hue layer here based on these colors, and then just with a big brush do this. Actually with overlay it might work. No, still too saturated. Didn't work at all. I'm going to do actual hue and saturation change. When you started making YouTube videos, did you hate recording your voice? I am making my first video right now and I can't stand hearing myself. You will have to do so much audio editing when you're doing YouTube videos that you will get used to it. Trust me. But there are a lot of people who just like, the only comment that they say on my videos is that they hate my voice or the way that I talk. And you don't have to like even be bothered by those people because you can just ban them forever. With just one button press, you don't have to see them ever again because they can find somebody else that they like listening to. So everybody wins. I guess the biggest thing that if you have just started your YouTube channel is just like establish boundaries with what's okay on your channel, and everybody can make their own choices when it comes to this, but not just YouTube, but like on my other social media channels, I like to take this approach that I imagine that both of those things, this YouTube channel and the Instagram account, it's like a gallery, and you have put your paintings there for other people to see, and if somebody says something that is inappropriate in that setting, like for example if somebody crashes into a gallery opening and they are screaming in a language that nobody understands to come and see their work on their page, and they are posting links there, that's not appropriate behavior. Emily Hamlin Skullseeker is saying, I want to start too, but hesitating to show my face. And I have accent in English, thinking to make without voice, just subs and no face. That's what I did at first. I just had music and text. But honestly, even with my voice, the ones where I do talk, I can see in retention that they do a lot better. So just different things work for different people, I guess. I don't know if I would recommend starting a YouTube channel for new artists, because editing videos can be so hard work, but then you see all these awesome young artists that seem to be able to do absolutely everything and they aren't bothered by the extra work, so who am I to say what you should or shouldn't do? But if making videos feels too difficult, I hope that it doesn't stop you from making the actual art itself, because just doing several paintings every week, that can already be a lot of work, and if it doesn't seem doable, then I guess it's good to like have a serious talk with yourself that what are my priorities. Having said that, the only thing I regret about starting this YouTube channel is that I didn't start it way sooner, because I was watching all these art tubers, and I thought like it would be so nice if it was possible for me to have my own channel too. I just thought that there's no way I could ever do it myself. I know that I wouldn't have been ready, like, mentally for it, but I should have tried. That was a bad reason not to try. I could add some, like, bigger trees here in the foreground. Just in, like, reasonable places. That's a wrong color, but it doesn't matter. It's just check where the tangents are and work based on that. I don't like that one push covering the leg. The thing I regret that I still think that is not fun about my voice, that I would love to write a book about art and creativity someday, and it's pretty obvious that I wouldn't be able to do an audiobook version of that, which I think is a shame because I love listening to audiobooks, and personally I love listening to audiobooks when the author is reading them. It might be possible to find somebody who can do it. I don't know. Probably it's just there wouldn't be any audiobook version, but I don't know if there's a customers. Does anybody actually read books anymore? Personally, I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I wanna find just the right color for this hill. Tricky. I know it when I see it. I think this might be it. I don't have a lot of Finnish people subscribing to this channel. There is a surprising huge amount of Finnish YouTube channels, even though the population is quite small. But Finns are YouTubers, it seems. I don't know any though. It would be nice to know somebody who does, well, not necessarily art videos, but like just YouTube in general, and talk shop about what they are doing, and maybe exchange information about how they get stuff done. I guess most YouTubers just learn this stuff on their own. I think this has a strange mood. I like the strangeness. Maybe it's because of the colors, because the colors seem like I could use the same colors and do a realistic landscape. But the style is completely different. There's something about that combination that I find interesting. I'm not gonna do it now, but I just wanna show you that like when I do the color edit, I'm probably gonna like experiment with some like light rays or stuff with this, because it just seems like it's a perfect fit for something like that. And then maybe give it a bit of like saturation somehow, like maybe not too saturated. I think gold could be fun. See, and that's probably what I'm going to do last, but I'm not going to keep this layer because that's so easy to do, and I'm going to need that extra layer for painting flexibility. How is he streaming his iPad screen? You are watching Zoom. I am in a Zoom meeting with myself, and I'm the only one in the meeting, and I'm sharing my screen to myself. And that screen that is on PC is now in OBS, and OBS is sending that to YouTube Studio, which is streaming this. And I'm not a tech guy, and the fact that I was able to figure that out just made me feel like a wizard. I know it sounds strange, but like once you just open Zoom and you set up your screen share from your iPad, I think it's pretty easy to figure out the rest of that stuff later. But setting up your screen share from Zoom, it's easier than it seems. The only tricky part is that like when you press screen share and then you see your iPad has to be in the same wireless network as your PC, and then you have to press your iPad to screen share, and then you still have to press the share button before you can set it up from your iPad. And then when you go into this menu, this like pull down menu, here you can see this like Zoom button, and it only appears after you have pressed that share button after selecting the iPad. I don't know if that helps, but like once you go into Zoom, it's pretty easy to do that part. But YouTube Studio for streaming, like that is just crazy. It's crazy to think that this is a Google product, and the way that they have done the streaming setup, it's just insane. They actually have in this creators channel this tutorial for how to set up YouTube streaming, and it's like it's funny. It's funny if you don't need it, but when you need it and you watch it for help, it's not funny. It's horrifying because it's this sort of like, it's so easy. It's 1, 2, 3 and press these buttons and then it works. And then the actual explanation is like rocket science and the dashboard is like space shuttle, and you're like, oh my god. I will never be able to figure this stuff out. But if you want to have some good laughs, I recommend watching that. If you don't intend on actually streaming, but if you do intend on streaming, I recommend just skipping that and figuring it out on your own, because it just poses more questions than really helps. I know that these brushstrokes might seem messy, but I'm trying to follow the forms of this rock creature, because I'm not going to paint a lot of like texture. These brushstrokes are the thing that describes the shape and volume of it. I'm probably not going to give the smaller one a mouth at all. I just think it looks more funny without one. There's a weird gap in here that is causing all kinds of problems, and I'm gonna fix that right now. Strange that I didn't notice it sooner. There is a program called Lonely Screen, but a lot of these things work only in US, or they are monthly subscriptions for certain resolutions. So I recommend Zoom because it's free and there's no limitations for it. And that's not an app that you need to pay a subscription for to use this feature. I think it was specifically Lonely Screen that is not available in Europe. Is there a reason why you don't stream on Twitch? A lot of the big art YouTubers are transitioning there because the income is better and the chat interaction as well. I think Twitch is probably its own beast and requires its own skill, and I've heard that not everybody likes these sort of like multi-streamers, that like I could stream to Twitch at the same time as I'm here on YouTube, but I wouldn't be able to follow two different streams of chat. You've noticed how little I have now time to like read all of the comments, so imagine doubling that. And even when you answer like chat comments or answer questions, you are only answering them to one specific platform, and then the other people don't even know where the question is coming from and they feel left out. I don't know if that would be workable. Also, I'm just not that familiar with Twitch, to be honest. I'm a huge gamer. I play video games every day, but I never watch Twitch. Ever. That's, to me, something that I just haven't been able to get into. I'd rather play games than watch somebody else play them. I think it's different with art because I wouldn't be able to be that person who is doing that piece of artwork, and it's interesting to see how they do it. And I have this YouTube channel. I've been working on this for a really long time. It would seem like a completely ridiculous decision on my part at this point to just like drop YouTube and go to Twitch where nobody is following me. Also, I know that Twitch has this creatives section now, but do people actually watch those? I'm genuinely asking because I really don't know. I know that the painting is working because it's making me smile. At least it's working for me. And that's good enough. I have friends that stream their bike rides in New York City. That sounds interesting. I would watch that. I've been watching these walking in different towns, including New York in rain, long-term, like long videos on YouTube. I think those are super interesting. I'll try and see if I can add a bit of shadow to this waterfall. Relative wide is hard. It's about trying to give the appearance of white or black without using either of those. By just using the existing color contrast to give that illusion. I don't know where they are going, but it seems like a nice trip. I should stop soon. It's already been 3 hours. I'm sure when I get up it will be like back is completely stuck here. Should I use reference for my paintings as a beginner, Joseph is asking, or just see where the painting takes me? What type of paintings are you doing? I think it depends on that. And what are your drawing skills in that area of what your subject matter is. If using reference makes the process more fun and teaches you something, then definitely do that. In most cases, I would recommend using reference over not using one. I guess I'm only different in this because sometimes I like thinking that I'm going to do an illustration of some animal, and then when I don't have reference at hand, I like to tell to myself that like I will look up reference later and I will fix the anatomy on parts where I need more help, and then I do some sort of like abomination of a horse or something, and then I think that the end result is so much like funnier than fixing it, and that's the reason why I do that. Like for example, I recommend looking up one of my yellow paintings that is called Ever Since That Day, the horses have been happier. And those horses don't look like anything like actual horses, but like ask yourself, would that painting be as energetic and fun if those were realistic horses, because there is that one, at least fantasy painting, where I did have horse reference, and for that piece it made sense that the horse is realistic and has muscles in the right places, but not for every painting. So it depends on the piece and what your message is and what is the intended like visual punch that you're going for. So there's no clear-cut answer. Everything is relative to what your goals are. Okay, I think it's time for me to wrap up. Helena, I'm using Mikko Rao, this one, with the rainbow at the end. Like a few more things. I'm gonna do a flip. Also the foreground trees, I could do a lighting pass. But I like the sort of like matte look that they have now. I'm gonna be careful with this. Just like crush the highlights a bit. Also it adds a little bit of like hue variety because of that blue curve that I did. It's not exactly the same as the layer underneath it. So here I'm just erasing this screen layer from parts quickly. And then this is very important to set it as a clipping mask before merging it down. Actually, when I did that, I noticed that this looks better when it's textured instead of Gaussian blurred like I initially intended to be. I'm gonna do that again. It's just harder to do, but maybe worth it. Now I can keep the texture there and just have this sort of like more pastel looking finish. there's like highly active brush strokes in that sort of cross-hatching in that one cloud, and it's not part of the main visual impact of this piece, so I'm kind of brushing them a bit. I think a lot of people, including myself, are inspired to do digital painting because of you. Do you have a video on like tips for beginners or something? Yes, several. I don't know where to begin. But if I start with the most important ones, I think a lot of people start by watching like some of my landscape paintings, and I would recommend watching that. The most important tip to landscape painting, I think that's important. It's not practical, but I think your process of learning art is going to be such a long one that having that information will take you a long way. Or at least the end result will be something that you can be proud of, and that will make the whole journey, because it's going to probably take years, it will feel worth it. Because if your only concern is to get those like technical skills good enough, and then you can make your own artwork, then you are already kind of like losing and missing the whole point of this. So that I would recommend. And when you want something more advanced, then I recommend advanced brushstrokes. That's quite high level, but you don't have to implement all the information at once. By the way, just as a tip, if any of you are using like one brush for the whole painting, like I am, I recommend using the same brush for erasing things as you use for painting. It keeps it a more cohesive. Like this texture that is happening here, the part that I erased, is the same texture that comes from the main brush that I'm using. I'm gonna do a luminosity layer here. This is a quick way to do fixes for composition. Actually, no. It's a lighten layer that I need to have here. Because I want to keep the eyes and texture. The thing with painting is that like there's an endless amount of information and endless amount of different situations, and I go through just like a tiny part of them, even with my like super long informative videos. But cases are like never ending, and they're always like case by case specific, so you can learn like slowly by understanding how that information and the way that I do a visual problem solving on that location in a painting, and if it applies to your painting, and if you run into a similar situation, then doing visual problem solving is going to be easier because you have already seen those issues being tackled. But that requires kind of like active watching and not just like passively having the video in the background, but you need to see like what is the visual problem, what am I fixing, and so on. But I was thinking of maybe doing like, for example, this garden in the sky. I have 8 hours of footage of it still. That maybe I could do like more technical, like more practical long form tutorial for Gumroad with just like all the steps, and but that would be like high level tutorial because that wouldn't be good for beginners. Also, it wouldn't be good for YouTube because nobody would watch 8 hours here. I don't know, but I have the video, and it's just that painting took a really long time to make, and there were very interesting problems with it, so I don't know, it would feel like a waste not to use it or something like that. Just in case anybody is interested enough in something like that. I need to think about it. But 8 hours would be really long. I remember I once did voice recording for almost 1 hour video, and that voice recording session lasted for 5 hours for 1 hour of video, and you can imagine that just editing through all of that was just insane. I spent more time editing the audio than I spent painting that thing, and that is the moving forest, by the way. Procreate is really easy to learn, like the basic stuff. I think the basic video that I'm thinking of, I think I could do that one for YouTube for free because a lot of people are asking for it, and I think that they are overthinking it way too much. And I saw one of these tutorial videos already, and it was over 20 minutes long, and I think that is just like way too scary for some beginner, because what they honestly need to learn to use is how to select different brushes, where is the eraser, how to change the opacity, how layers work, how to change the brush size, and that's it. And then just do a whole painting video while explaining those steps to see that like you can make an actual painting with this stuff, because I think a lot of people think that they have to understand every single feature, and that's not the case. And if I were to make like a mini course out of it for beginners, I think that would be like project based, so that would be a longer way of like making people go through tutorials so that they can create their own artwork. These are just like, I'm just thinking out loud. I have no concrete plans, but like at least for me, if I was doing using online material to learn something, I would feel like it would be way more motivating for me if I could, at the same time as I'm learning that stuff, do it in practice and have an actual finished pieces of art after doing the course. rather than just like watching a video and here is this tool and here is this tool and here's this tool. After like 3 info points you have already forgotten the first one. So it's, I don't think, as a teacher, I don't think that's the optimal way to learn, or at least being motivated to learn. I'm trying to learn Blender myself better, and that's the one thing that I wish at least that there was like a tutorial on, because every like beginner video starts with like, here we are talking about 40 minutes about this interface, and that immediately like makes my brain shut down, and I just want to do something and learn as I go and have somebody like guide me through the process of like creating something, and then have something at the end that I can see that like, hey, I created this and I also learned how to use these tools. That would be more fun for me when learning 3D. I don't know how much Procreate costs. Somebody's asking how much it costs. I remember it was around 10 euros when I bought it. I don't know. Thanks, Thea. I'm gonna look at that. Also with Blender, there's this like whole switch to Eevee, and because the interface changed so drastically, I was actually on a actual classroom where there was a physical teacher in the room teaching me how to use Blender 2 years ago. But after that, Eevee happened, and the interface is completely different. Just I have like basic understanding of what I understood from that course, but like in practice it's pretty much useless information now because they completely revamped the interface, and I think it's good because the new interface is better on Blender. I really need to stop, and I'm now at the phase of this painting where I start to like it and I want to stay in it for longer. I'm probably going to like add more lighting effects to these trees here, and just to make them more graphic, but I can't rush it. I can't do it like this. I need to keep it like graphic, and that's going to take some time, so I'm not gonna include it in this stream. But once I'm done, I'm gonna post this painting to Twitter and then later to Instagram. I think I'm gonna have something here in this corner. It's like, sorry, I thought I'm done, but like I want to do like one more thing here. I think it's gonna give the rock shape a bit more rhythm, where it changes into this forest area. We're gonna have another like dog appearance. Okay. On behalf of Vivi and me, thank you everybody for joining this live stream, and I'll see you guys. Stop floating. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.